Hi guys. So I was just thinking about something because of a text message that I got from my dad. He sent me a picture of the sliver moon, and he said, "Have you ever seen such a small sliver before?" Not a big deal, but my dad's not the type of guy to do that usually. Like, he probably doesn't pay very much attention to the moon or whatever. He's really busy. He's pretty busy. But I'm always talking about that kind of stuff to him. And I was just thinking about something. There was one day when we were working on the shop. We were outside kind of moving some dirt, doing some landscaping. And I was talking about, not we, but I was talking about how it's kind of weird how everybody in this world observes a completely non-moving and still Earth. The world we live on doesn't move, and yet almost everyone believes that it is rotating. And I said, I was just explaining to him that's not science at all. That's like anti-science. That's pseudoscience, or whatever you want to call it. If we were going to do science, we would have to account for the observation that nothing ever moves. The sky is what moves. The sky turns, and the stars rotate in a circle. And I've actually talked to him about that. I've showed him. Ooh, I got to turn here. I showed him pictures of star trails, and I asked him, "What do you see moving in this video?" And he said, "I see the Earth rotating. The sky looks like that because the Earth's rotating." And I said, "But that's not what you're observing. You're not observing the Earth rotating. You're observing, literally, truthfully, a fact, the sky turning." This is not something that anybody even needs to debate, but still I end up debating people. They want to argue with this, or argue with the idea that we all just observe the world that we live in, guys. It doesn't move. It's still, stable, established, non-moving. But, so the reason why I'm making this video, though, is I was just thinking about something. If you're someone that sees this truth, and you know it's true, and you want your family to consider it, and I'm sure you've mentioned these things, certain things to them about the things you've been learning, and they don't seem to hold the same interest in any of it. So this morning when I got that text from my dad, it just made me think. Really, like, back a couple years ago, he was like literally embarrassed because I believed the world is flat. Like, didn't want to associate certain ways with me. I mean, he'll always be my dad, he knows that, but we didn't, for a long time, we haven't talked about those flat Earth or anything like that, because he made it clear that he didn't want to hear about it. And you know how it goes. It still doesn't stop me from making comments, like while we were shoveling the dirt that day. I'm like, "Dad, look at the dirt. We're shoveling it. We're moving it because it's not moving on its own." And as elementary of an argument that seems, it doesn't matter. It's an observation that everybody alive makes. So science would have to accept that and not reject it. See, science rejects the fact that we only observe an Earth that's not moving. Yet they want to teach your children at school. They want to teach your children that, oh, the earth is rotating. And that's what we were all taught, and that's why it's so hard to come away from that. Well, it's just encouraging to me, because when we're shoveling dirt and I say that, I said, Dad, it's not moving. You're making an observation right now that it's not moving. And he just kept saying, well, no, it is moving. And then, of course, he said, if you're in an airplane, you can't tell you're moving. And so I have to explain that I fully understand the imaginary concept that the earth is rotating. I fully understand why people would say that. I think it's quite obvious. But the fact is that it's not rotating. Nobody ever observed it rotate. Nobody ever saw it rotate. Nobody has any reason to believe it's rotating. And you can't take an instrument and pretend that the instrument is measuring a rotation, because we're observing it not rotating. So if you think an instrument, if you think science is interested in an instrument more than it is the observations that we make of the real world, that's not science. Science would say, okay, the ground never moves. We've noticed that. We notice that the sun, the moon, and stars, they move over the earth every day. They move over up in the sky. And they're moving, not us. They're moving. Stars are moving. You can go test this out any night or during the day. The sun's right there. By the time I get to my destination, it's going to be another 15 degrees from where it is now. It moves. There is no other way to look at that. I don't care if the human body isn't able to sense or constant speed, and it needs acceleration or deceleration to sense it. That doesn't matter. That's just an excuse to believe a lie. That's what it is. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, and I'm kind of dragging it up, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that day, I know my dad thought about it that day when we were doing that little landscaping stuff. I know that it went through his mind like in a way that it didn't before. And I just kind of left it at that. I just kind of left it. I didn't want to push it and get him pissed or anything. But when he sends me something about the moon, if you know my dad, that's not his thing. Like he just doesn't seem like he doesn't have interest in those kinds of things. And so to have him just out of the blue send me a picture of the sliver moon and say, whoa, have you ever seen it be such a small sliver? That's encouraging to me. So what I wanted to say was, if you're a person that sees this truth, and if you're in the situation like I am, and it's like not a good idea to bring it up with your family or whatever, because you already have, and they just completely disagree. I think the best thing that probably any of us could do to get them to realize that what we're saying is true is to use the stationary earth, and that we all observe that. Everyone alive, nobody observes anything other than that. And I think that's just very powerful. I think it is. And I think people will have to think about that. And that's why, like, a lot of times when I end up in a debate about anything, if we're in a debate about curvature or something, it all goes away from that and it goes back to the rotation. And then there's a lot of people that say, oh, but there's a geocentric globe. And I'm like, no, there's not. Globes have to rotate. Otherwise, there is no globe model. That's the whole reason why the globe is rotating to these people, because they need it to rotate in order to have time. In order to have a day, they need it to rotate. And it doesn't. So I think the most powerful flat earth proof is to remind people that they never observe any kind of rotation, and they all observe still and not rotating. Because it's true. That's true. You can't argue with that. You can't. Nobody would in their right mind. The only thing that you can justify saying after that is, well, a moving train, if you're on a moving train, it doesn't feel like you're moving. And tell them, stop changing the subject. That's an excuse. We're talking about the ground beneath your feet. Stick to it. And the reason why I say this too is because it hurts to watch people believe in a lie and standing up for it and rooting for it. It hurts to watch that. And when you've been shown the truth and you know what is true and what is a lie. So it was just encouraging to me that my dad sent me that text this morning with the picture, because it just kind of says, it kind of tells me that he's thinking about something like that, you know, because that's not normal for my dad to, it's not a normal thing for my dad to comment about the moon or the sun or anything like that. Yeah, it's just my dad. But anyway, that was about all I wanted to kind of point out. It's stationary, guys. We can prove that. In fact, you're proving it to yourself right now. Wherever you're sitting, wherever you live, the ground is not moving. So share that. All right, you guys have a good day.